I talk about morning routines a lot. Talk about things that you can do when you get up in the morning to start your day off right. But what about when it comes down to your evening routine? It seems to go by the wayside. I think naturally speaking, we go through the day and then by the time the evening hits, we're just kind of in our routine, in our pattern, and everything goes out the window. We always have good ideas and good intentions. Like, I'm a firm believer that almost everyone on this planet lives their life with a good intention. They just got caught up in the riffraff of life at some point or the other. But that happens to each of us on a daily basis too. And that's why I personally think that an evening routine is just as important as a morning routine. I want to give you 3 things that I do in the evening time. These are things that I've done in the past, things that I don't always do every single night, but things that I've incorporated. And I compiled this list because I think it's going to help people that are really trying to establish a routine that's going to work for them in the evening time. The first one is actually writing out what you did that day to crystallize it, but also writing out a plan for the next day. Now, hear me out on this. When you write out the day that you actually just lived, you crystallize it. You take those extraneous thoughts, all those random thoughts that are floating around in your mind, taking up space, and you're putting pen to paper with them. You're absolutely ending them. So anything that's been weighing on you throughout the course of the day, anything that's really been stressing you out, can literally be appeased simply by writing it down. It does a couple of interesting things in your brain, but let's talk about goals and writing out the next day too, because that plays a part as well. See, when you actually write out your next day, you're not going to get lost in the hubbub the next day. You see, a lot of people that are even successful people, they get up in the morning and they start writing out their day. They write in their book, they look at their day planner, they write out the rest of their day. But if you do it the night before, your brain is still in that active mode. You're still in that frame of mind where you can make things happen. You're still in work mode. You want to be writing your plan when you're in work mode. You don't want to be writing your plan when you're just starting your day willy-nilly. But this all comes back to the fact that writing things down plays a big role when it comes down to goals. Now, if you watch my other videos, you know that I'm not huge on goals, I'm bigger on intention, but there's some legit science that backs goals up. In fact, there was a study that was conducted by Dominican University up in Northern California that took a look at people that wrote down their goals. Well, actually, they looked at people that didn't write down their goals and people that wrote down their goals. 267 professionals. These are people like dentists, healthcare providers, people that have been successful in life. Well, what they looked at was those that wrote down their goals versus those that didn't. Well, those that wrote down their goals had a 42% higher chance of reaching their goals than those that didn't. Now, this is all fine and dandy. We all know that writing down your goals is important, okay? We hear that all the time. We heard it in high school. We heard it in college. It all makes sense, right? But let me give you the science facts so it truly makes sense. You have a component of your brain known as the corpus callosum, okay? This corpus callosum is a band of fibers, a band of neural fibers that connect your right brain and your left brain. Now, ordinarily, we are thinking with either our left brain or our right brain. We're not really thinking with both. Left brain being a lot more literal, a lot more pragmatic, a lot more actually get things done, whereas the right brain is a lot more imaginative. Okay, that's used when you're writing and things like that. So when you have an idea, when you have a goal, it usually appears in the right side of your brain because it's an idea. Now, once you start taking action on that, like writing it down, it transfers over to the left side of your brain. You're now in the more analytical side. You're actually taking action. But it's not that does it. It's the crossover. By utilizing that corpus callosum, you actually utilize a different part of your brain that allows that energy, allows what you're working on, that goal that has now gone from idea to something tangible, to literally trickle into other areas of your body. So now that action truly has taken on a new life from that motivation. So you literally have the physiology to back you up, saying that when you write down a goal, it activates a different part of your brain. Okay, now let's talk about the next thing I want you to do in the evening, and that is take an ice cold shower. This is something that I've played with in the morning, I've played with midday, and I've played with in the evening. And I found personally for me, by and large, it seems to have the most effect in the evening. And I think it's because I'm a little bit more calloused when evening comes around, okay? You're already kind of operating on your sympathetic nervous system a little bit more because you're already fired up from the day, so maybe it just doesn't hurt as bad. But the whole idea of hopping in a cold shower is that contrast creates a massive influx of free radicals for a period of time. And I know I always talk about how free radicals are bad, but in this case, we want a small surge of free radicals so that our body can get accustomed to it. We're basically getting ourselves adapted to the cold or ice cold shower. That adaptation to the free radicals is extremely, extremely good and what makes it effective. In fact, there was even a study that was done by the Journal of Free Radical Biology and Medicine that took a look at those that regularly ice plunged or regularly swam in ice cold water. Well, what they found was pretty interesting. This is beyond just mindset. This is actually physiological. They found that those that had just ice plunged and did so periodically actually had lower levels of uric acid in their body and extremely higher levels of glutathione in their body. Now, glutathione is a detoxing agent that's naturally occurring in our body. So now we know that simply by exposing ourselves to contrast water, that we can actually help our body's detoxing mechanisms too. So it's not just cerebral, it's actually physiological as well. The additional benefit of doing this in the evening comes with the fact that it's been shown to help you with sleep as well. Now, the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine did a study on what's called the prefrontal cortex cerebral thermal transfer. What they were looking at was when they placed ice cold water or an ice cold platelet over the prefrontal cortex, they found that it calmed the body significantly enough to reduce symptoms of insomnia. Now, this is with insomnia patients, not necessarily the everyday Joe Blow, but the fact of the matter is that it does have an effect on helping you relax. And it simply has to do with the fact that prefrontal cortex does dictate a lot of what happens the rest of our body. Now, if we're wired from the rest of the day, we're wired from going to work, we're wired from being at home, all of this stuff plays a part in why we can't fall asleep. And simply cooling off the prefrontal cortex has been shown to have a big impact on that. All right, now let's talk about one that I personally am a big fan of. And this is something that I discovered when I was meditating a lot. Now, if you apply this even outside of a meditative state, it works just as well. And that is mood color association. This is something that is extremely, extremely important to do no matter what. All it is associating a mood or associating a reaction with a color. And it's called compartmentalization, and it's a natural defense mechanism that we actually utilize no matter what. We do it and we don't even realize it. So if we're walking down the street and we see someone with a frowny, mean face, our natural reaction is to associate that with someone that's bad. So we stay away from them. Or if we see someone that's flailing their arms around like a maniac and they're running their arms like a windmill, like they're gonna punch someone, our natural reaction is to categorize them and actually kind of stereotype them into someone that's crazy and someone that is a threat. So it makes a lot of sense that if we start associating our own internal emotions with a color, that we can actually make it a lot easier to handle. Let me give you an example. If you get angry, you're upset because you got in trouble at work, you got written up, you had a rough day. Well, you associate that emotion with a color, like red, like orange, like yellow. That association with the color, again, utilizes the same component that I talked about in the first topic, which is the fact that you're combining your left and your right brain. You now took an emotion, an idea, something that was upsetting you, and you crystallized it. Even though you didn't write it down, you crystallized it in your mind by associating it with a color. It made it a lot easier for you to digest, it made it a lot easier for your body to handle, and you're able to move on. But the cool thing is, when it happens in the future, you get that negative emotion, and you instantly just associate it with the color. You don't even think about it. You don't even have to do it anymore. Just like if you're walking down the street and you see the angry guy, you're going to avoid them naturally. You don't even think about it. So I want you to get in the habit before you go to bed of making sure that you compartmentalize a little bit. Make sure you compartmentalize your emotions for the day so that you can make sure that you sleep and that they don't affect you that way. That way they don't affect you the next day or the week after that. They don't affect your family, worst case. So there you have it. Those are 3 easy ways that you could start getting a little bit more out of your evenings. A little way that you can get more out of your family, a little bit more out of yourself, so you're not wasting the time thinking about what's making your day terrible. Because in my opinion, the evening is where it really happens. If you can set yourself up to get a good night's sleep, then you can set yourself up to have the best next day. As always, if you like these kind of videos, make sure that you comment below and let me know what kind of other mindset or motivational videos you want to see, because I love doing these and I want to hear from you if there's something that you want to see. So I'll see you in the next one.